All right, let's talk about something that gets buried under a mountain of hype, but is actually super important for the future of finance. We're going to dig into how distributed ledger technology, DLT, really fits inside a big, complex place like a bank. Okay, so let's just jump right in with the big one. The question that's been floating around for, what, a decade now? It's the multi-trillion-dollar question that's fueled so many projects. Is this technology going to come in and just replace everything we've built? And the answer is, well, it turns out that's completely the wrong question to be asking. Thinking about it as a replacement, that's based on a huge misunderstanding of what DLT is actually good at, especially in an enterprise setting. So in this explainer, we're going to completely reframe this conversation. We're going to push past all that hype and show you that DLT isn't here to replace everything. Instead, think of it as a powerful, specialized integrity layer that works with the systems you already have. Now, to build out this new picture, we're not even going to start with blockchain. Nope. We're going to start with something that's already the engine of most modern businesses, microservices. This is where all the complex, real-world stuff happens. You can think of microservices as these flexible, super dynamic workhorses in your enterprise. This whole off-chain world is where the messy, complicated logic lives. Validating a loan, enriching data, handling all the weird exceptions. It's designed from the ground up to be complex and to change all the time. So if that's where all the business logic lives, where does DLT fit in? Well, we're not just adding another complex engine to the mix. We're introducing a totally different kind of tool for a very, very specific job. And this right here, this is the core idea of this entire model. The on-chain smart contract layer isn't there to run your business process. Its job is way narrower and, frankly, way more important. It's there to enforce unbreakable guarantees about the transactions that come its way. This is where it all becomes crystal clear, right? You've got microservices built for that flexible, ever-changing business complexity. You can update them constantly. Then you have smart contracts, which are the polar opposite. They are designed for rigid, rock-solid integrity, and you change them very, very rarely. They're just different tools for completely different jobs. So a really well-designed enterprise smart contract, it's got to be small, it's got to be predictable. Think of it like a digital notary. Its only job is to guarantee that events happen in the exact right order, that the numbers add up, and that once something is written down, nobody can ever deny it or change it. It's a rule book, not a sprawling application. Okay, so we've got our flexible business logic layer and our rigid integrity layer. But what about the ultimate system of record, the heart of any financial institution, the general ledger, or GL? Let's be 100% clear on this, because this is probably the biggest myth out there. This architecture does not, and it really should not, try to replace the core GL. Those systems are the bedrock of accounting for a very good reason. Instead, what the DLT layer does is make the GL's job better. It gives it this perfect stream of events that are already in order, already immutable, and already reconciled. The GL doesn't have to second-guess the data. It's getting a golden source of truth fed directly to it. All right, enough theory. It's great on paper, but let's make it real. We're going to walk through a simple loan payment just to see how all these different layers work together in this perfect controlled dance. Okay, so picture this. A loan payment event gets triggered. The microservice jumps in and does all the heavy lifting, the complex validation. Then it creates and signs a transaction and hands it off to the smart contract. Now the contract doesn't redo all that business logic. It just asks the simple, tough questions. Is this person allowed to do this? Does the math check out? If it gets a yes, bam, it writes a permanent event to the ledger, which then flows downstream to the GL and the audit systems. Now, here's one of the coolest parts of this whole architecture. It's not just about how it works when everything goes right. It's about how it behaves when things go wrong. It is literally designed to fail safely. And this is absolutely critical. If that smart contract rejects a transaction for any reason, nothing, and I mean nothing, gets written to the ledger. The state stays completely clean. You never get those messy, partial writes that cause headaches. This means the microservice can safely try again without creating duplicates. The integrity of the ledger is always protected, even when things fail. So let's pull it all together. Why go through all this trouble of separating these layers so carefully? Well, the answer is in the architectural payoff, the real, tangible business value you get from it. A massive part of that payoff comes down to governance. You simply don't manage a core integrity rule the same way you manage a piece of business logic. They need fundamentally different life cycles, and this architecture totally respects that. And this just shows you how different it is. I mean, microservices can be deployed multiple times a day with a CI/CD pipeline. But a smart contract? Whoa, that goes through a rigorous bank-grade lifecycle. We're talking threat modeling, multiple audits, code reviews, a super controlled deployment. You have to, because you're changing the constitutional rules of the system, and that demands extreme care. And when you get this architecture right, it unlocks 5 huge business benefits. First, you slash the need for reconciliation, because everyone's finally working from the same trusted playbook. That gives you a shared source of truth, a rock-solid audit trail that regulators absolutely love, and it means you can finally automate processes with real confidence, knowing the data underneath is secure and reliable. So really, the crucial point is right here. If you only remember one thing from this, make it this sentence. Smart contracts are a governed integrity layer. They enforce the core rules, and they sit right between your flexible business logic and your official systems of record. At the end of the day, this isn't a story about ripping everything out and starting over. It's a story about reinforcing the systems you already depend on with a brand new layer of trust, integrity, and absolute proof. And so, that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you look at your own business, with all its complex processes, where are the spots that are full of friction or manual reconciliation or just plain doubt? Where could a dedicated, unbreakable integrity layer make the biggest difference for you?